Welcome, everybody, to our study session. Thank you. You know, I was just thinking the year's half over, July 1st, so we've got 6 more months to go till New Year. But welcome, everybody. Mayor Giles is out of town and excused on city business, as well as Councilmember Thompson's out of state and excused. So Council, thank you for being here. Let's go through the agenda that we have. You'll be looking at 2 agendas, July 1st and also next week's City Council meeting. So if you review those if you want any changes or information.
Hey, Vice Mayor, members of the council. So the Planning and Zoning Board considered item 5A and 5B this morning and recommended approval. So that's a form-based code text amendment.
And just also, Mayor and Council, you'll recognize we did add item 4D to your agenda based on the presentation from executive session and the follow-up afterwards. So that's a new item, but it was discussed and we came out of the executive session.
Okay, thank you. So going through the agenda, item 3 has a number of our contracts that we go through and approve. Item 4 is several resolutions, including the approval of the Google agreement on item 4D. Items 5, 6, and 7 are resolutions and ordinances, and item 8 is subdivision plat. Yes, Councilmember Whitaker.
I'm going to request item 4D be taken off consent. I'm an investor in Google and their parent company Alphabet, so I'll be conflicting off of item 4D.
Okay, you'll conflict.
Abstaining, is that the right word? No, conflict, okay. So when they do that, does it reduce the majority or not?
Are we good with that, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving forward, is there anything else on July 1st? That would be this evening's agenda. All right. You want to look over July 8th agenda as well? I don't believe anybody's called in yet. Did somebody call?
It almost sounded like it. You could ask.
Mayor Giles, are you on the phone? Councilmember Thompson?
You might have just opened the line.
Static. Okay, Council, we're good on July 8th agenda?
Yes.
Okay, council members, we're all good? Okay, with that, it's time to convene an executive session. Do you have a motion for that? Okay, Councilmember Heredia, second. Councilmember Luna, thank you. We'll go into executive session, after which we'll reconvene. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to reconvene our study session, council study session now, and I'd like to invite our economic development team to give us a presentation. Bill, JD.
Vice Mayor Freeman, thank you, members of council. Good to be back with you again tonight. JD Beatty with the project manager with the economic development team. And just over a year ago, May of last year, you approved a MOU with Lincoln Property and Harvard Investments to pursue this Union development, which is a Class A office project at Riverview. There's a lot of demand, surging demand, I would say, that's going on in our community, and the Union can certainly deliver up to 1.35 million square feet of that. We must emphasize again that this would be the largest office product ever developed in the history of Mesa. Let me take a minute and just go through this picture up here on the screen, starting on the upper right. You're looking south from the 202. Upper right is the Sheraton, and on the right is a parking garage next to our wastewater treatment facility, which is a campus of 4 buildings ranging from 4 to 8 stories. You can see a nice complex in the middle, some green space. There'll be additional parking there on the surface as well. And then on the east, there is a additional parking garage, which will accommodate most of the tenants on the east two buildings. So that gives you a general overview of what it is. Let's just refresh on where the site is. So Riverview is on city-owned parcels, 28.2 acres, just north of the lake, near the Cubs facility. So it's north of the northwest corner of Dobson and Real Salado. Existing zoning is limited commercial with a planned area development overlay. And again, there was a facility use agreement that is on this site with the Cubs for their events and game days. Next slide, some of the project highlights that we've talked about. Up to 1.35 million square feet. Minimum in the development agreement is 750,000 square feet, again, in 4 to 8 stories. That facility use agreement we talked about talks about 2,500 spaces west of Riverview Drive, and we will be looking to maintain that. Third item is a utility relocation. Developers responsible for relocating those utilities. However, they will be reimbursed from the sale proceeds of the parcel itself. And then on the west side, where the existing parking area is now, we'll be looking to maintain ownership of that. We wanted to provide some additional public parking. So the city will actually look to own the first floor of that garage. Well, actually, will stay city leased property, so it will be a private improvement on public land, be deeded back over to the city. We will then be looking to maintain control of the first floor, which is anywhere from 380 to 430 spaces in an initial concept design. That'll be done in a few years. So we were looking to really control some of that additional public parking and protect our wastewater treatment facility. Next slide talks about a lot of the Union project team. So certainly Lincoln Property Group, premier developer in the state, Harvard Investments, long history here in the city, let alone around the state as well. The blue logo of Goldman Sachs sort of jumps out. They have agreed to finance this deal. That's significant. And you can see the other team members between Cushman, Layton, and Davis along the way. So let me get into a little bit of the phasing, and JD, why don't you take it from there?
Sure. Thank you, Bill. Mayor and Council, thanks for having us here today. As you look here, this is effectively what will be the Phase A development, or the Phase 1, which is on the northeast corner of the Riverview soccer field site. They'll be constructing a 225,000 square foot building and providing adequate grass parking, which will still continue to service the Cubs during game days. But there will be 4-story office as well as a 4-story parking garage on the east side. And we jump to what it will look like at full build out. Again, this is on a total of 1.35 million square feet with first building 4 stories. The second and third building would be estimated to be up to 6, and the fourth building could go up to 8. And so there are 2 large parking garages on both sides. That west garage is what would be leased from the city in a ground lease. And there's also a small additional surface parking lot on the south of that garage where another 60 spaces would be public parking. The takedown and how the site will be acquired. So it will have a phasing of about 8 years to execute 4 different option periods. After the hopeful approval of this agreement, the developer will have 24 months to acquire the first site, which is about 9.12 acres, and it will also include a shared tract, which is in that previous slide. There's a spine road that essentially runs up and down the middle, so it's a little bit larger of a parcel. Phase B is 6.7 acres, and they will have the option to purchase that as soon as they actually begin construction on Phase A. And so in Phase C, it's 4 acres, and they must have A completed. B must also be under construction, and Phase D, A and B must be completed, and Phase C must be under construction. The city manager will also have authority to grant 12 months extensions on each of those phases if the developer demonstrates that they are making reasonable efforts to pursue the development of that corresponding phase. The initial purchase price for Phase A will be an estimated $3.9 million or $10.52 per square foot, which was determined by an appraisal that was done for the city. Each of the following phases and acquisitions of the land will be adjusted based on an annual consumer price index increase, which will be no less than 3% and no more than 5% per year. We're also asking that a new appraisal be done every 5 years on the remainder of the property that has not yet been purchased. Next, we'll move on to Cubs game day parking, which is a significant concern that we are very attuned to and wanting to make sure that a positive fan experience is maintained for the Cubs. As we mentioned, it's governed by a facilities use agreement, which stipulates that we as a city must maintain 2,500 parking spaces west of Riverview Drive for the Cubs to use on game days. We did a hard parking count in 2018 spring training season and counted that at the highest day, they parked 3,876 cars across all of the Riverview park and campus, if you will. So as part of this project, the union team has committed to providing 1,750 spaces for the Cubs and city use. That'll help us meet those, that 2,500 number for the Cubs, and that's upon full build out. And they will also be developing an annual parking plan every year as their site develops, which allows us to work with them as well as with the Cubs to make sure that all parties' needs are being met and that everyone understands how game day parking is going to flow in and out of the site. The west parking garage, one of the main concerns we had is wanting to be able to maintain that existing public parking as public parking. So it'll have a 6-story parking garage built in 2 phases. Again, think of them as kind of bread loaves in C and D. And they will be leasing this from the city, but that parking garage essentially the first floor will be maintained as public parking, again, between 380 and 430 spaces. Again, we wanted to make sure that public parking gave park patrons access to the trailhead and, of course, Cubs game day, and that's why we wanted to make sure that was maintained.
So, to go back and reiterate, 1.35 million square feet Class A office. That's a product that, from an economic development perspective, we don't have enough of today given the market demand. They've agreed to provide substantial and adequate parking for the Cubs and for our use, or the public's use is a better way to probably put that. We talked a lot about utility relocation. Again, they're willing to take the substantial amount of utilities on that site and relocate them. They will be following the city's procurement processes. We'll be looking to reimburse them. And then they're going to pay market rate for the land. So this is a straightforward market rate deal. And the ground lease exception on the west garage only, not the east garage. So that pretty much summarizes the deal point, so we're open for questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Council, is there any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Luna.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. This is a great project. I know we've been working several years to achieve this, and thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for the union and those involved, and we'll hopefully proceed with this.
Great.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Dove?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up for the general public, I know we reviewed a lot of this in our executive session, but if you would just review the timeline as far as construction and the impact, for next March, that will be under construction during that time, just to bring awareness to that. And also, that's one part of the question. Second part of the question is regarding the soccer fields and how that's going to coordinate with the other property that we're acquiring on North Center and when that will be ready, because I think the public would be.
So I'll defer the
interested in
second part of the question to the city
Okay.
manager.
Okay. All right.
So construction actually depends on when they sign a tenant. They've been working with a few different tenants and a few interested parties, and I think this has accelerated this process quite a bit. So we do anticipate that utility relocation will start, could be by the end of the year, and things will start to happen fairly quickly, and thus it would take a lot of coordination with our transportation folks and the Cubs as well.
And on the soccer, the vice mayor's insisted this be the top priority project that we have in our CIP, so we are working on it very quickly. We do have control of the property that we need for the soccer fields on Center north of Thomas. And we will be engaging a design team this week.
Yeah.
this week.
Advertising this week.
Advertising this week. So we're moving quickly. We haven't acquired the property, we have control of the property, so that we can begin working on the designs and the elements. So we'll eventually own the property, and we're working towards bringing on all the design teams and construction. But realistically, we're probably a year or so away from that being open.
Probably that,
Would
I
you-
would say 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah,
2 years of design?
hold on.
I hope
I don't
not.
want to say years.
It's a soccer complex.
Right now, we're in the process of hiring a designer. As city manager mentioned, we hope to start construction. We have to start construction by third quarter of next year because we need to beat the turf establishment time in May of 2021, so we can open in the fall of 2021. We've got a 3-month turf establishment with the park like this.
We'll move as fast as we can. We can.
We're already moving.
It doesn't move faster just because we do have to time it with when we get the grass down.
So going back to the first phase of the question, the first part of the question that I asked on the construction, the area in which we use for grass parking right now, that area for the parking garage, I don't know the phasing on their construction, like if they're going to do the office building first and then the parking garage second. Is that going to be impacted for this upcoming year?
So they're going to start in the
Are
northeast.
you asking about
quadrant.
parking, or are you about just parking or soccer?
The parking.
Parking, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm back.
To make sure, okay.
First part. Yeah.
Okay.
So first building is the northeast corner of the building. So in this first page that we have up here, if we can get back to the original, you can see in the presentation, there is the northeast quadrant. You can see half of the garage, there you go, being built along as the L-shape building. So again, that's 225,000 square foot Class A office building and half a parking garage. We like to refer to it as half a loaf because they're building it in halves. So that's where the first phase will be. The rest of it, now a piece of the, what's labeled there is grass parking to the south of it will be used for construction laydown, but the rest of it is available for Cubs parking.
So anticipating everything goes smoothly and this is under construction next spring, the area that's considered to be the parking structure for the phase one will be or will not be under construction this coming year?
It will be,
It would be under construction.
So the
Yeah.
entire area is going to be in construction at the same time?
Right, I see what you're
Okay.
saying. All of
I
parcel A
didn't know if they were going to do the
will be-
building, complete
Right.
that, and then do the garage.
Yeah, so all of what's outlined as Phase A
Phase
would
A
be under
phase.
an active construction site.
Okay. And then I just wanted to reiterate for the general public that the bottom floor of that parking structure will be reserved for public parking.
So let's be careful. It's the bottom floor of the west parking garage.
Of the west
Correct,
parking
yeah.
garage.
So, and that's the last phase of this development. So
Okay,
that may not
okay.
be happening for some time,
Yeah.
but that would be
Okay.
the last phase where that parking garage gets built.
Okay, my misunderstanding. So it's the west one that will.
Yeah.
Right,
the
just the
bottom
west
floor
one. So this is the
reserved.
one that's closer to the lake, closer to the trail, well, it's immediately
South of
south of the
the trail.
trailhead. So that was why it was being retained for public use.
Okay, and at that time, then the parking spaces would be retained for public use, for the park, for the trailhead, for the games, whatever use that we need. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, council? If not, I have one blue card. Ms. Mickelson, are there any other blue cards on this? All right, thank you. Let's invite Mr. Piper, Justin Piper, to come forward and speak to us and who he represents.
Hello, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Justin Piper with the Chicago Cubs. I'm the general manager of our spring training operations here in Mesa at Sloan Park. Wanted to first thank Mr. Jebginiak and his office for the open dialogue as we've started to learn about the impacts that this development would have on the site over the last 4 to 5 months. The Chicago Cubs, too, are excited to see the interest in the development around the Sloan Park site and appreciate the city's recognition on any new use on the site be compatible with the operation of Sloan Park and the fans and revenue it brings to Mesa. Our aim is to protect the guest experience and maintain the best spring training site on behalf of the city and our Chicago Cubs fans that visit Mesa each spring training. There's some key questions and concerns that we feel need to be resolved before the development agreement is finalized. To preserve the overwhelming success of Sloan Park, we must be able to provide adequate and convenient parking solution for all guests, and that those questions have been communicated to city staff. For example, I understand the development agreement envisions both the Union and Cubs selling and operating parking at the same time in the same general location. This would lead to total confusion from our fans with multiple entities selling the same parking location. We acknowledge there's a revenue solution that needs to be found, but most importantly, want to ensure the fan experience does not suffer. Furthermore, we are unclear how certain provisions in the facility use agreement are to be met and reserve our rights under the agreement. To be clear, we are supportive of the vision of the site and specifically the Union development, so long as the issues raised can be addressed. Again, we want to thank the city's staff for the work done to ensure both the Union and Sloan Park events are compatible for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. You know, I think that these development agreements and myself being in Mesa a long time, that we've had an open dialogue with the Cubs for decades. And so that's the partnership that we want to continue. And I think it's important that we address those issues. And as a council member that represents your area, that's important to me, make sure the parking is an important component of it. I know Councilmember Heredia and I share our districts there and the impact with the Cubs, and parking is crucial to all the development in that area. And even going forward, I think working with the HOCAMs and others and the parking arrangements that we currently have has just been beneficial for all parties. So I know there's a little bit more to work on the developmental agreement, but I know it's going to be positive for you. So thank you for your comments. I don't know if staff wanted to address any comments.
We appreciate
Mr. Brady?
Justin's efforts, and we know we still have some things to further provide for him, so we'll do that.
Thank you.
Well, with that, thank you, sir. So you need direction to move
Yeah,
forward?
so Mayor, Council, the
Council.
question real before you is if we giving direction for us to place this on next Monday's July 8th City Council agenda, we would do that if that's the direction from council.
I'm fine with that. I support that.
Okay. Cool. It'll be on the agenda for July 8th.
Council, are we all good with that? All right. Thank you, that. Then with that, Mr. Brady will hear reports. Council, any reports of conferences or meetings attended?
Just real quick, I attended the Arizona-Mexico Commission Conference, which was held last week in Phoenix, and a lot of the emphasis was placed on the U.S. MCA agreement between Mexico, United States, and Canada. Mexico has already approved the agreement. It's just a matter of the Congress supporting it, and then followed by Canada. So this is a good, it's a win-win situation for all three countries. So.
Thank you. Any others?
I attended a volunteer appreciation event for the IDEA Museum on, I think it was Friday. And so I just wanted to take an opportunity to publicly thank all the volunteers and all of our, especially in arts and culture, across the city, and really making the difference and making sure that we have excellent facilities and operations, and the hundreds of hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars they save the city and the service they provide. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Council, then Mr. Brady, your turn.
Quickly, just a reminder, we'll see you next, no study session on July 4th, but we will have the Arizona Celebration of Freedom event that night. And so it goes from 6 to 10 p.m. on July 4th, and fireworks at 9:30 p.m. And we'll see you back here on Monday, July 8th. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you.